Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Victoria Online. Yes, online again this week. However, the great news is that next week we're back in person I was going to say on live. We're back live in person at the center on Cook Street, and so looking forward to just being together again. It's going to be wonderful. A vaccine passport is still required, and masks are required. But we're starting to get back to something that's going to feel a little bit more like normal for all of us, and I'm just thrilled about that. And also, if you haven't heard, our AGM has been postponed. It was to be next week. It's been postponed till April 10th because a lot of our core people are going to be away on holidays, and so we want to have as many of our folks there as we can, and uh, just being together, just having tea and coffee together and a snack after service is going to be a great thing. So I trust that you can all make it and really look forward to seeing you there. And right now, I would like to invite Rachel to do our opening treatment.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. It's time to play. Time to play. Take all your worries, all your illnesses, all your guilt and self-doubt, and know and trust that God already has it all taken care of. And go and play. It's springtime and the world is anew. You're playing and joy. Your playing and joy is what heals everything. So play it is.
Oh, and so it is. Thank you so much, Rachel. That's wonderful. And I would like to invite Darlene now with her gift of music for this morning.
Thank you, Carrie. So this morning, thinking about living for today, I thought I would sing one of the songs that we often sing upbeat, but I'm going to do it in a more meditative way today. And that is, Thank You for This Day. Thank you for this day, Spirit, thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit, thank you for this day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. Thank you for my life, Spirit, thank you for my life. Thank you for my life, Spirit, thank you for my life. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful life. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful life. Thank you for our peace, Spirit, thank you for our peace. Thank you for our peace, Spirit, thank you for our peace. Our healing, our healing, our healing peace. Our healing, our healing, our healing peace. Thank you for this day, Spirit, thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit, thank you for this day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. Thank you for this day, Spirit, thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day, Spirit, thank you for this day.
Thank you, Darlene.
You're welcome.
A wonderful way to start. Thank you for this day. A great way to start every day. Good morning, God. Thank you for this day. What have you got in store for me today? Did you know that today is the most important day of your life? You may wonder what kind of magic has been conjured up when I say that, and it isn't any magic at all. Remember the expression that yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift, and that's why it's called the present. It is so important for us to remember that right now, right here, today, is the most important time that we can have in our lives. And as Dr. Holmes taught and teaches us still through his works, the past has no precedent. Whatever we have experienced in years past, there may be mistakes that we've made. We may feel shame, we may feel guilt, we may feel lack or limitation because of those things in our lives. None of those things matter today. And the same thing with future expectations of being grim or of being good, whatever. Right here in this moment, none of those things matter, because right here we get to do something differently from the way that we have before. Remember what Einstein said the definition of insanity is, and that's doing something the same way today as we did it yesterday and expecting a different result tomorrow. Just isn't going to happen. And so as Dr. Holmes teaches, and I'm still speaking from A New Design in Living, that little book of his that he wrote just prior to his death, and it is so profound and just synthesizes all of his teachings into this one amazing book. Love it. And as he says, we are always at choice. We're at choice every moment. And so I was thinking, he says things don't have to be difficult. It's we who make them difficult. It's we who say, oh, poor me. You have no idea what happened to me yesterday. You have no idea what my childhood was like. You have no idea what the last 10 years have been like. How about the last 2 years with all of us going through this pandemic? We all know that part really well, but that does not have to influence our tomorrows. And it doesn't have to influence us today. That's the important thing that we need to remember, that we are at choice. And so we have to move forward without fear and without doubt. Having a new vision for tomorrow, a new vision for the future. And I talked about that last week, about the mental equivalent, having that image in your mind of what it is that you want your life to look like. And feeling it, if we're feeling kind of down and out right here and right now or later on today, crank up the music and dance in your living room, or do something that brings you lots of joy and put a smile on your face, no matter how you're feeling. It's amazing. It's been proven that if you've got a smile on your face, that you're upping your vibration already and starting to feel better, and you're programming yourself for future happiness. So let's keep smiling. It doesn't mean that the past didn't happen. It doesn't mean that we didn't go through some really difficult things. It doesn't mean that we didn't make mistakes. Those things are all real. They happened, but they don't need to be burdening us today. It's kind of like being dragged backward when we're doing that. And remember last week I was talking about Dr. Holmes in this book suggests how we would feel if we knew that a friend had passed and left us $1 million, and that we would be able to claim that $1 million in 1 year from today. Well, back in the day, that would have been about 1958, I think. Back in the day, $1 million was a vast amount of money. I mean, today people are lucky if they can buy a house for $1 million. So think of that, put it into the context. What if somebody passed and left you $20 million? And you were going to pick it up in a year, how you would feel, the excitement, the joy, the gratitude, and then start thinking about, what would you do with it? When I'm teaching prosperity classes, I will often ask students in the class to imagine that they have been gifted with $10 million or 20 or 30, whatever their minds can take in. A lot of people have trouble believing that they could have that amount of money, but a large amount of money, more than they've ever imagined. And then to make a list of who they would give it to. what they would do with that money. Perhaps they might start by buying that house, by helping friends and helping children and grandchildren and so on. I know when I made my list, um, I was paying off the mortgage for one of my daughters and my son-in-law, and now I think I'd be paying off student loans for my grandchildren, and I would be tithing a vast amount to the center because it would give me so much joy, but also it's the way that it works. As we give, it comes back to us. And so we're operating here on principle, on spiritual law, and whatever it is that we're seeing and whatever it is that we're feeling, we're creating. So right here, right now, in this moment is our moment. This is our moment to create a fabulous, fabulous life. And these are deep and abstract truths that Dr. Holmes teaches. And it's so important that we embody them. You know, if we don't, we're just going to suffer defeat. If we're thinking negatively, if we're dwelling on the past, if we're dwelling on those things that just didn't work very well for us. And we need to take the time to do that. Take the time to imagine this wonderful, beautiful life that is ahead of us, and all of the things that we envision in it that would be so meaningful, including our deep connection with God, this power that is all that we are, that is the essence of our being, being in alignment with that presence, feeling that presence, how important that is, because that's where our joy is. That's where that's where we demonstrate everything in our lives. And it's where we come to feel at peace with ourselves, content with ourselves, and we don't go back on what's happened in the past. We're living in the present moment, and as we do so joyfully, we are creating more and more of that in our lives. And you might say, oh, I know that you tell me to meditate every day and to pray every day, but I'm really, really busy right now. I've just got so much on my plate. I'm troubled by all of these things. Um, I'll get at it tomorrow, or I'll get at it one of these days. As I'm fond of saying, one of these days or someday is not a day of the week. The time is now. The thing is, it will save so much time in the future if we but spend the time each day to align with God, to align with the divine. And, some your friends, I don't know, maybe some of your friends, some people who are colleagues might say, oh, you're so new agey. We're not new agey. New Age, New Age things had to do with tarot readings and crystals, and not to say that there's anything wrong with any of those things, but the focus was on those things, not on the divine that is within. And so what we are embracing is new thought. Now, isn't a brand new thought. It may be new to each of us, or it was new to each of us at some point, but it's new thought, ancient wisdom. And that ancient wisdom operated on faith. That's what that's what helped people to create the lives that they wanted. They understood the principle. They understood that they were aligned with spirit. They understood that spirit was within, not somewhere out there. And just imagine how that would be unusual thinking, 1,000 years ago. But there were people who were thinking that way and have been for centuries. It's just that we weren't aware of it. And I mean, I can remember reading the Transcendentalists, reading their poetry, reading Emerson and so on when I was in high school. I didn't know that it was a spiritual teaching. I didn't really get it at the time. But as we get into this teaching, we do start to really understand that. And we understand that we are ancient, it is ancient wisdom that is supported by faith, and it is now science that is fulfilled with faith. All of the things that Dr. Holmes taught are being proved now by science. Just think about that. It's incredible. He looked forward to that day. I know I've said that before, but quantum physics is proving this teaching. And so We don't even have to have faith. It's there demonstrated for us, and yet we have a problem believing it. And so it's time that we just get out of that place of, of, of thinking that things aren't possible and be refueled by that faith and know that everything is possible and know that this universe is one of law and order. And we take it one day at a time. That's perhaps hard to believe too when we want to bite off huge chunks of life that are going to take a little bit more time. But living one day at a time doesn't mean that we don't plan. I think that that's where we get into some mistaken ideas too. We do plan and we visualize what our future is going to be. It's important that we do that. And we don't just sit around doing nothing. We do connect with the presence of God within us. And we do it every day. And as we do, we start to see magical things happening in our lives that aren't really magical at all. Wouldn't be to Dr. Holmes anyway, but they are to us. And when we start seeing those things happening, we want to do more and more of it. So let's practice it. Let's accept that each day is a new opportunity. It's a new opportunity to achieve our divine potential. Each day is a new opportunity to achieve our divine potential. Think about that. God is not limited. So we're not limited except by our thoughts, except by ideas that have been implanted in us since goodness knows when. And right here and right now, let's just allow ourselves to let go and remember that God can never be more than God is right in this moment. Because God is whole, perfect, and complete. God is in everyone, in everything, everywhere. There can't be more of it. So we're not sitting around waiting for more God in our lives. All of God is there. It's that we're perhaps not present with the all of God, the allness of God. And so right now, that's where we need to see ourselves where we want to be. And it can be a bit of a brain twist when we think about it. But the thing is, we need to see everything as whole, perfect, and complete. In the spiritual sense, everything is. Because in the spiritual sense, everything is God. And God is perfect. And so if we remember this and remember that Spirit is alive in us, then at the same time, we are starting to create more and more perfection in our health, in our well-being, in every part of our lives. And we need these beautiful images in our minds to be fulfilling this, life-affirming images each day, as Dr. Holmes called them, mental equivalents. And I've thought about this. I think I shared it in class this week, although I may have shared it when I've been speaking before. But when I was in my early 20s and I was married, and my husband asked me one day, what would be my perfect age? And I said, oh, thought about it for a minute and said, 35. And he said, why 35? And I said, I don't know. When I say 35, I just feel like I would just feel so confident at that age. And I would feel like I had my life together and life on purpose. And that I would be moving forward in the direction that I want to move forward. And, I'd have the world by the tail. And I kind of forgot about it, but that was how I felt. It was really a powerful thing. And on my 35th birthday, he said, I asked you once what your favorite or what you thought your best age would be. And you said 35. And he said, how do you feel today? And I said, oh my God, I feel exactly like that. And I was so excited. And again, I didn't know about this teaching. But I said, oh, if this is the way that it happens, I must have programmed myself, and I better start programming myself for 50 and 60 and 70 and 80 and 90 and 100 and 120, because I'm going for 120 with options for renewal. And he laughed and I laughed, but I was using a principle that is, the law of mind. It's the way that it works. And so, this present moment is where we start creating that. And I kind of think it's like a menu. You go into a restaurant and you order your dinner. Well, you order up life, I look at my menu and I think, tonight for dinner, I think I'd like a lovely French bouillabaisse. And I'd like an appetizer of health. and I'd like a side order of prosperity. And for dessert, I'd like a fabulous relationship. Think of it as a menu, where you're just ordering up the things that you want in your life, and then think about what they look like. Imagine what it's like. I remember, again, in my past, I don't know how old I was probably about 35, and I used to run every morning. Hard to believe, I know, when you think about me now. But I used to run 2 kilometers every morning. It wasn't much, but it was just to kind of get the juices going. I would take the dog with me and would run around. Actually, it was 2 miles. I would run around a track close to where I lived, because then I could measure how far I was going. Well, there was a 10-mile race that was coming up on a weekend. And one of my daughters asked me if I would go in it with her. And I think she was only 10 years old at the time, but all of the school kids were going in it. And I said, sure, I will. And I didn't stop to think 10 miles, I've been doing 2 miles. But the thing is that I started thinking about what that would look like, and what it would look like to run the route. And I knew the route quite well, and what it would look like to cross the finish line with my daughter, and with all of the other people who would be running it. And so that day came along, and we ran it and finished it. There was a point where we slowed down because, and I don't like it, I'm not blaming my daughter, she had a stitch in her side. We slowed down for a few minutes until she kind of got that out of her system and got her breath back. And she was much better off than I was with her running. But we ran together and we completed it, and it was a joyful experience. And so I was remembering that yesterday as I was thinking about speaking today, and I thought, if I could run 10 miles, let alone 10 kilometers, what would that look like? What would I look like? What would my body look like? What would it feel like? When we start to remember how our bodies have operated so successfully, I mean, isn't it miraculous in every way? We don't have to be sedentary. We don't have to be sitting feeling like we'll never be able to do that again. But also, it takes some practice. I'm fond of saying, with spiritual practice, with physical practice, it's like going to the gym, you know, or playing the piano, whatever. It takes practice before we can do any of those things. And so we shouldn't think that we can get up out of a rocking chair and run 10 kilometers the next day. That's not the way it works. But when we can imagine ourselves doing those things, then our bodies begin to respond. We're sending a message to every cell. There is a divine perfection in the center of our being. It lives inside us, divine perfection. And so we're sending a message to that divine perfection that we're on the path to doing whatever it is that we can imagine ourselves doing. And that is so exciting to think about. The present moment, right here, right now, can provide us with more joy than we can ever imagine if we allow ourselves to embody it. We don't say, oh, yeah, well, again, tomorrow. I mean, right today, I'm not feeling very happy about the way things are. Feel happy. Think of something that makes you happy. Watch a movie that makes you happy. Go outside and breathe in this wonderful spring air, the joy and the beauty all around us. And the thing is, we have to choose it. Yeah, I say that all the time. We are always in choice, and we have to choose it. If we postpone it, then it's just a loss. And as I said, we don't think about, well, I'll do it someday. Um, again, the past, things in the past are not figments of our imagination, but we must not burden ourselves with them today. It's a clean slate, right here and right now. Remember what it feels like on New Year's, right on the stroke of midnight at New Year's. And you feel like you've got this clean slate ahead of you. Oh, everything's new. Oh, thank goodness the past year has gone. I remember thinking that with all of the COVID stuff that had been going on. Thank goodness that year is behind me. And then we've got this new slate upon which to write. And it feels so good. Well, every day is a fresh slate. You don't have to wait for 2023. to come along. We can start right here, right now, a fresh slate today, creating new things with our thoughts. And it's so important when we want to create a brighter future. And I want to read just a small bit here from Ernest Holmes' book, A New Design for Living. He says, this does not mean that every moment of our lives will be filled with complete happiness, with everything that the heart can desire. However, we should learn to take from each moment only joy, the joy of everything, the lesson, the good that is in everything. If we take only the bad, is it not out of this bad that the next moment will be born? Life is often filled with undesirable situations and conditions, and it can become a bed of roses only when we're willing to pick the thorns out of our flesh and throw them away. Don't you love that? Pick the thorns out of your flesh and throw them away for life to become roses, or to become rosy. So let us now start thinking about how we're going to do that. What is my tomorrow going to look like? What is my life going to look like 10 years from now? What is my image of it? The way that I want it to look, the way that I want it to be. What is on my menu? Let's create a menu right here and right now. Let's start thinking about that. Write it down. Make it real. Make it real in your mind, and feel the excitement the same way you would feel the excitement if some friend left you 10 or $20 million that you could pick up in a year. Just allow yourself to be buoyed up by this, and not to say, oh, but I don't have it. Because all we're creating when we say that is more of I don't have. And so let us start really, really remembering this. With God, everything is possible. Absolutely everything. I remember in the last year I was watching a news program. It wasn't a news anchor. It was somebody who hosts a show that discusses the news. And he's a former lawyer and was celebrating his 50th birthday. And he's been a radio broadcaster and been in television now for a while. And he said his 50th birthday really started him thinking. And he used the quote, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift, and that's why it's called the present. Well, I nearly fell off my chair. I thought, wow. And more I am hearing people who are doing these kinds of news programs quoting spiritual books. It astonishes me, and I love it, because bit by bit, in spite of everything else that's going on, there is a little bit of a positive message coming out of these things. And he went on to say the most important words in the world for anyone are thank you. And he said, I'm going to read this. He said, thank you, God, for my life. Thank you for my family. Thank you for the hard times from which I've learned so much. And then he said, your future is now. Our collective future is now. And I thought, what has he been reading? And isn't this exciting? And wouldn't it be wonderful if we could hear this kind of thing every day? And I want to close with a reading from Dr. Holmes' book again. The only time in which we may create or experience our new design for living is now. It is never later than you think. There is only the fact that you may have barred from your experience of today as much of the good it can hold. The past has no hold on us other than that which we permit to have. We have to learn to live today, as this is the only time we will ever know. We have to drain each moment dry of all the joy, happiness, and success it contains. There will never be more of anything available to us than there is right now, but we need to accept it. And so it is. And thank you for being here today. Thank you for being with me. It's great to see all of you, and look forward to seeing you all again next week. And this is the time that we typically do our offering. And so if you feel so moved, I invite you to make a donation today on our website at www.cslvictoria.org, or to send an e-transfer to donate@cslvictoria.org. And I would now like to invite Reverend Jennifer to do our benediction today. Jennifer?
Reverend Carrie. Please join me as I go within, embracing this now moment, this understanding, the now moment, our part of eternity. When we stay in this now moment, we are living in eternity. And if we live in eternity, we are immersed in all that there is, immersed in God. So we live our life in this now moment, unconditioned, embracing the infinite. We are embracing God as God embraces us. We are in oneness. The oneness with our greatest desire, our best friends, and all the other friends that we haven't met yet. This is a magical place where miracles are common. And we are blessed. Open our heart in love, enjoying the beauty of this now moment as we would enjoy the beauty of a flower. A beautiful daffodil that Reverend Carrie mentioned. Even though it appears to be alone, it is immersed in all that there is. And it is a trendsetter. We could all be trendsetters. In this life, we're blessed to live. With a grateful heart, I give a deep, deep thank you. Spirit within, go forward in happiness and joy. This beautiful day of sunshine and promises. So it is.
And so it is. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And thank you all for being here today. Have a really wonderful and blessed week.